The Bible says in it that Jesus, at one point, he asked the disciples, "Who do the people say that I am?" And some people say prophets, teacher, magic man, whatever. But eventually, the disciples, when Jesus asked the disciples, "Who do you say that I am?" They were like, "The Christ." Peter says, "The Christ," and Jesus says, the Father's revealed this to you. I can go on and on about that, but the point is, labels. They're important, all right? How we label others, and we all do that to a degree, is important. How we see other people, how we see certain causes or whatnot, how we see ourselves matters. This brings me to Stephen A. Smith. Move this up a little bit here. There we go. Stephen A. Smith. What do I do with him? Do y'all know who Stephen A. Smith is? Stephen A. Smith, back in the day, was a journalist. He eventually shifted, works for ESPN, eventually shifted to being he was a sports journalist, mind you. He eventually shifted to being a sports gas bag. The GOAT, as far as sports gas baggery goes. And now he's kind of shifted into still a sports gas bag, but he talks on pop culture issues, a podcaster. He talks on sensitive pop culture issues. He talks on sensitive Black community issues, sensitive race issues. He's become a political pundit, polarizing figure. Yeah. So he has a lot of labels. And recently, last week I think it was, the National Association of Black Journalists. I think their whole thing is to lift up Black journalists and help them in the industry. They had an award show, apparently, and gave out an award to Stephen A. Smith called the Thumbs Down Award. And which I feel like they can come up with a better name for. They gave him the Thumbs Down Award for they believed that he was too critical of some Black women throughout the years, and Black people in general, so they gave him the Thumbs Down Award. And again, Black people are like, we're the creators of cool. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we could have come up with a better name than the Thumbs Down Award, but whatever. Also, too, if you're the National Association of Black Journalists, I feel like the goal that you have is to lift up Black people. So why would you give an award to a Black person to push them down? It seems like you're accusing Stephen A. Smith of something that you're doing by giving him this award, but whatever, people. So that's the plot. All right. What do we do with Stephen A. Smith? What's his label? Is Stephen A. Smith still a journalist? He believes so. I don't really view him that way. I feel like most people don't, but he still thinks so. If he isn't, then this award doesn't really apply. If he is, I still wouldn't think it applies, because even if he is, and he views himself that way, it would be like if there's like a pie chart and he'd be like 10% journalist, if that. You know what I'm saying? Not enough of a journalist anymore to warrant this award. Why would they even waste his time? Why would they even waste their time on Stephen A. Smith? So I don't know, people. It just seems like rant fuel to me. You know what I'm saying? Debate fuel, if you will. But I mean, Stephen A. Smith's a lot of things now. He's got a lot of labels now, and with all labels come with it responsibilities, burdens, if you will. For better or for worse. And it's not wrong necessarily to have a bunch of labels. It's just sometimes they'll conflict. For example, I am an entertainer and a minister, right? And sometimes those two labels conflict. I'm a bunch of stuff, but those are the prominent ones I am. And sometimes there's people who only know me in the labeling of minister, who might have a problem with some of the entertainment stuff, and vice versa, right? But that's the path that God has me on, so I don't really care about those issues. And people are gonna have a problem with that. That's, to me, that's on them. I don't particularly care. And that's kind of my point here, Jesus was not really all that concerned about those who didn't understand what he was doing. Like the people who just called him a prophet. He didn't say anything about that. He was more concerned about that the disciples got it. They understood what he was doing. I'm not comparing Stephen A. Smith to Jesus. I'm just saying there's a lesson there, not just in labels, how important they are and how we see things, how we see ourselves, but also if this is what we're doing, if this is the responsibility that the labels have us on, the path that the labels have us on, right? It's what our job is. Then who cares what all the chatter is? Who cares? I feel like Stephen A. Smith should have just dismissed the award, maybe even embraced it. You know what I'm saying? Just make a post on his podcast and be like, thank you for the thumbs down award. I don't know if they gave him an actual award, but if they did, put it in the background of sharpshooter, straight shooter. Is that what it is? I think it's straight shooter. Put it in the back and just embrace it. You know what I'm saying? Be totally dismissive of the award. That would have made them so mad, right? Now, look, I don't agree with a lot of things Stephen A. Smith says. So I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying in general, people are always going to be talking about you. So don't give them, because now they know that they got them. You know what I'm saying? They know it really bothers them. And now it's just going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It doesn't help anything. So to me, he should have just been dismissive of it and keep on moving. All right. So just remember, people are always going to be talking smack, but how much are you going to let it bother you? Right? You know how you label yourself. You know what those responsibilities are now that you have. So you stay focused on that. Forget about the chat.